Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I'm Teena Jha, you're watching Perspective. The budget session of Parliament commenced on Wednesday with an address by President Draupadi Murmu to a joint sitting of both houses of Parliament. In her ceremonial address, the President outlined the government's vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, highlighting the government's sustained focus on transforming people's lives. She said, over the past 11 years, India has strengthened its foundation in every sphere. This period has become a strong cornerstone for India's rapid journey towards becoming a Viksit Bharat by 2047. Elaborating on India's development journey in recent years, the President expressed confidence that the Parliament, the government and the citizens together will fulfill the resolve of Viksit Bharat. Listen it.
आज सभी देशवासी देख रहे हैं कि भारत अपने भविष्य के एक महत्वपूर्ण पड़ाव पर है। आज जो निर्णय लिए जा रहे हैं इसका प्रभाव आने वाले वर्षों में दिखाई देगा। विकसित भारत का लक्ष्य भी किसी एक सरकार या एक पीढ़ी तक सीमित नहीं है। ये एक सतत यात्रा है। इस यात्रा में हम सभी के प्रयास, अनुशासन और निरंतरता का महत्व है। आने वाले समय में देश की प्रगति हमारी सामूहिक संकल्पों से ही होगा। मुझे विश्वास है कि संसद, सरकार और नागरिक तीनों मिलकर विकसित भारत के संकल्प को सिद्ध करेंगे। हम भारतवासी राष्ट्रहित को सर्वोपरि रखते हुए संवैधानिक मूल्यों के साथ आगे बढ़ेंगे। सभी देशवासी अपने कर्तव्यों का निर्वहन राष्ट्रहित, राष्ट्र कल्याण में करेंगे।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed the President's inspiring address to both houses. In a social media post, the Prime Minister said, and I quote, "In our parliamentary traditions, the President's address has a special importance as it spells out the policy direction and collective resolve that will guide our nation's developmental journey in the coming months," unquote. The Prime Minister also described the President's address as comprehensive and insightful. He said the emphasis on building a Viksit Bharat was perfectly captured, reflecting our shared aspiration of building a strong and self-reliant nation. So today on the program, we'll discuss and analyze some key takeaways from the President's address, also how it frames the government's development priorities in this crucial phase of India's growth story. Joining us are two distinguished guests. I'm delighted to welcome in the studio Mr. Bhartruhari Mahtab. He is Member of Parliament. He represents the BJP in the Lok Sabha. Mr. Mahtab, thank you for joining us on the program. Thank you for taking out time for this discussion. And I'm also pleased to welcome senior journalist Mr. KV Prasad. He's been covering Parliament and parliamentary proceedings for a number of years. Mr. Prasad, thank you and welcome to the program. So to begin with, help us and our viewers understand about the importance of this important parliamentary tradition. The Prime Minister said this customary address by the President to both houses, which begins the budget session every year. So Mr. Mahtab, your thoughts first on how important is this address in terms of the parliamentary tradition, not just talking about the achievements of the government so far, but in a way laying out the roadmap for the next phase of development, and most importantly, because it comes ahead of the budget, the expectations and the outlining of what the government perhaps will prioritize?
I would put it in a different way. Different way in the sense, this is the third term of Honorable Prime Minister heading a government. Right. And this is the second year of that third term. Practically in a 5-year term of Lok Sabha, second, third and fourth, these are the 3 years which actually spells out the road ahead. And this year, I believe, Mr. Prasad will agree with me, that this is a road ahead program which the Honorable President has spelled out. Second point is, as the Honorable President has very clearly remarked, that we are in the second quarter of this century. We have completed 25 years. And during these 25 years, India has progressed a lot. But there are some more to achieve, and that beginning has started. The foundation has been laid, now the structure has to be built. So starting from providing Pakka houses to the poor, by providing the food security to more than 95 crores of people, by providing support to the middle class, on which this government is totally anchoring upon for the Vikasit Bharat. All aspects have been taken care of when Honorable President was addressing both the houses today. So in that respect, I would say she has covered from agriculture to spacecraft.
That's right.
And the word which actually electrified the house, which I believe everybody will agree, is the progress that we are making, the rapid progress that we are making. That is something which is unique. When the whole world is facing tremendous headwinds, India is progressing with full force.
That's right. I think you summarized up the President's address in one line by saying what stood out for you particularly, because this is something that makes India's growth story and India's economic journey distinct from where other countries are. So despite the headwinds perhaps that started in 2020 with the COVID pandemic, the world and many countries are still reeling with the aftermath of the pandemic, and thereafter there have been several other conflicts going on. Geopolitically, the situation is evolving, but India, Mr. Prasad, continues to remain the fastest growing major economy. But despite that, if you look at the President's address, she's covered a wide range of sectors, and she's highlighted the transformation that we have been seeing over the last decade or so. What stood out specifically, in addition to the economic transformation, for you in terms of how the social strata has changed? The picture of India's socio-economic growth presents a completely different picture and story to the world that today we are witnessing. The world wants to engage with India. The world is taking India very, very seriously. Where did you, see that aspect coming out in the President's speech?
Teena, before I move on to answer to what you asked me, I think when you said the world is looking to engage with us, I think the most outstanding example was the India-EU FTA announced yesterday. Right. Because today almost every international media organization has taken note of this development, so much so that we have heard the US Foreign Trade Representative also has hailed this thing. So that shows world was waiting and is waiting to engage with us. So that's a very clear demonstration. I don't think I need to say more on that. Okay, I looked at the speech of the Honorable Rashtrapati Ji in 3 or 4 key pillars. Pillar 1 was the capacity building that the government has done and doing, the institutional capacity, A. B, the social welfare schemes and measures that the government of India has been taking in the last 10 years and is continuing to take, which covers the part of the question that you asked me. The third is also, if you look at, is the way infrastructure has been the accent. Because as Mr. Mahtab pointed out, if India is looking at Viksit Bharat 2047, we already into the second quarter, means another 22 years down the line, we should be there. And what exactly is, what are the end, we know the end, but how do we go there? That's the issue. That's how the roadmap is being charted out. Last 10 years, Prime Minister Modi gave his vision to the country and has taken that forward. I think this budget in particular gives you the thrust engines which will actually spur the economy to go where we need to go in terms of economy, because unless you have economic growth, and I don't want to take too much of time because we have the person heading the Standing Committee of Parliamentary or Finance who knows more about figures and what we are going to spend. So unless the economy is going to grow at the rate at which we want to grow, Viksit Bharat is a challenge, remains a challenge, and we all are geared up for that. Number. To answer your question, I think the President's address have multiple issues. You talked about raising people out of the poverty, the social welfare schemes expanding from 25 crores to 90 crores. That means 2/3 of the population is covered under the social welfare measures, right? And the various institutional mechanisms that have been put in place, so that irrespective of what happens, whether it is the Gramin Sadak or whether it is the houses for the poor, so Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, Shahri, so all these are very clearly showing where and how. It's not just Viksit Bharat will have, because we have large components of people who need to be there, who need to cross the limits of below poverty and above poverty. So that's what the gain is. Nobody
right.
grows, or everybody grows.
We've clearly seen how that shift has happened from welfare now to empowerment, Mr. Mahtab, and clearly people are expecting to see more of that continuity, because we've seen results have been in our favor. The common man has been empowered in more ways than one. On that continuity aspect, of course, the economic landscape is waiting for some growth-oriented measures for the sustained momentum that we are targeting in order to reach closer to our Viksit Bharat goal. What can we expect from the government in terms of continuity and accelerating the momentum of growth?
I'll just put it in a different way, in the sense, we never expected that the income tax relief would be given to lower income group, one can say lower middle class, up to 12 lakhs, zero tax. That was never expected, but it came. And that's how I believe the Honorable President said that this year, after that has been implemented, more than 1 crore of people have purchased scooters, motorcycles. That gets reflected, because the amount of savings that happens, that also get invested in our purchasing capacity, increasing the purchasing capacity. This is one aspect that gets reflected in the President's address. Similarly, I would say, we never expected that GST will come down to 5% from 18%, to have only 2 slabs of GST in the country. And everybody were apprehensive that perhaps the revenue will fall, but it has not happened. Market rather was in full force during the festive season. So in that respect, I would say these were 2 very strong decisions, I would say risky decisions, which the government could take in the first year of this term. And I would not be surprised if more such risk also will be taken this year, which is the second year, because we are in strong ground economically. Despite, as I said, there are tremendous headwinds, but we have the strength to withstand all sorts of pressure from international quarters. And we have shown it to the world that we will stand to our ground. We will purchase wherever our interest is, and we will also stand for the benefit of our farmers. We will not succumb to outside pressure, which the Honorable Prime Minister has repeatedly said, that our foremost interest is to protect the interest of our country and our countrymen. So in that respect, number of steps are going to be taken, and I believe, as I mentioned, about 2 instances which nobody had expected will happen. It happened in the first year of the term. And when every year we are facing assembly elections, and which also impacts politics at the center. So in that respect, a strong leader always takes strong decisions, keeping the country's interest.
Since you spoke about the interests, in fact, the President also highlighted that we are at this juncture where the government, the political parties, the citizens need to all work together. That's where the unity will be seen, will also be put to test. The opposition, Mr. Prasad, has already laid out its strategy in terms of specifically opposing the G Ramji bill, and they want the Manrega back. Where will the government find it difficult to reach a consensus? The previous session, we had a discussion once the session was over post the winter session, and we spoke about how productive that session came out to be. There were not just important legislations that were passed, but there were also meaningful discussions on electoral reforms, on 150th year of Vande Mataram. And as citizens, we always expect the Parliament sessions to be quite fruitful, quite productive, even if you have differences. When it comes to uniting on reformative and transformative measures, we want to see the Parliament speak in one voice.
Well, Teena, I think there is a bit of a dichotomy in what we look at, because Parliament consists of both government and opposition. They constitute the House, irrespective of whether you like it or not. That's the way it goes. And opposition obviously has a viewpoint which is different from those in the government. So there is nothing, because that's the way democratic structure has been built. It is ideas versus ideas, your thought versus my thought. Whoever wins, whoever convinces the people will get the majority or will get the numbers to form the government. That's the way it comes at. And the government comes out of Parliament. And Parliament is what? A place where people of India send their representatives to speak on their behalf, which just yesterday I think the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, Mr. Rijiju, was also pointing out. Debate, yes. Discussion, yes. They have to happen. Disagreements also happen. But how do you sort the disagreements is an important point, and I think Mr. Mahtab would also agree, who has spent considerable number of years in the opposition too. There will be differences, because that's why political parties have their own ideologies, their own priorities, and they bring that to the table. And the end is both the government parliamentary managers and those on the opposition benches and all those who are in the middle. They all come together and see what is the best course that needs to be taken. How do we take this forward?
I'll ask about the best course, because you have the most experience. You are one of the senior most parliamentarians today. The concern is not about political parties having differences. Disagreement, in fact, is the beauty of democracy. But the question here and the concern largely is that and people are worried about planned disruptions which lead to repeated adjournments, which lead to loss of valuable time. And many a time we see that important sessions, question hour, the 0 hour gets impacted. Where are we missing the link between consensus building and between ensuring that the limited number of sittings that both houses have are quite productive and quite substantial?
The sad part is when the question hour gets disrupted, because that is the privilege of every individual member, where the government becomes accountable to the Parliament and through the Parliament to the people of this country. I am not in support of disruption of the question hour, but there are disagreements when certain decisions or programs of the government is put forth for decision inside the House. There, opposition has a role to play. But totally disrupting the proceedings of the House never helps our democratic temper. It goes against it. Rather, people lose faith in our democratic system. That should not happen. But how to go about it? How to bring in a settlement? Settlements are brought in, as Mr. Prasad will agree with me, when we had a central hall. People talk to each other, leaders talk to each other. And I believe in the present dispensation also leaders talk to each other. Not that openly as it was happening in central hall earlier, but people also talk to each other. And always there is a give and take. You allow certain things from the opposition to raise their voice inside the House, and the ruling party or the treasury bench or the government also has their way. That's why it was always said the opposition should have their say and the government should have their way. But to reach that, there need to be some deliberation, some discussion at some quarter. The more it is, the better it is.
So are we not having those discussions anymore? I mean, as much as we were having earlier, Mr. Prasad, you have covered Parliament and parliamentary proceedings for decades. You have seen that shift happening. So earlier there were disruptions, but there wasn't, the loss of time wasn't as much. At least the question hours, 0 hours were not being disrupted so much as they are now. Or is it the live proceedings that is adding to it?
I would not quantify it, let me put it. In broad senses, question hour got disrupted throughout. And that is why in Rajya Sabha in particular, the question hour was shifted. To save the question hour was shifted from 11 to 12 because and this was not done, it was done in consensus. It was, the due process was followed, members were consulted, the General Purposes Committee agreed to it, the rules were changed. So the due process that is set in Parliament system was followed and the question hour was changed. But we still notice there has been disruptions, and Mr. Mahtab is very right to say that that is one area where the government of the day is held accountable, and if you disrupt question hour, it is the government's advantage. they're getting away without being answered on issues which the people want to know. In fact, that is, a lot of MPs in the opposition do agree to this, that we are actually allowing the government to get away without being scrutinized for things and acts they have done or policies and programs that they are unrolling. That having been said, it is opposition's choice what they wish to do. Disruptions definitely have no place to say. But I also want to qualify one thing, and maybe Mr. Mahtab may agree or have a different point of view. Parliament makes up for the loss of time by sitting late. Yes. Parliament also works in the committees, which none of us are free to report because there are rules which apply to all of us. We cannot report the proceedings of Parliament in committee meetings. But then real serious work is done. In fact, the most bipartisan or non-partisan work is done in the committees.
That's right.
Right, and you also have covered enough, and I think, so I always dispel this notion that we are wasting time. There is a wastage of time in terms of, but parliamentarians sit late and do the work, because I remember one instance, probably he would bear me out. Once Mr. late Pramod Mahajan was telling us that the moment the Business Advisory Committee would meet, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee was the leader of opposition in Rajya Sabha, he would say, tell me what is the government priority, we'll get that cleared. That is no issue. We know, because government is for both, no? For opposition, is for the country.
That's it.
So you cannot disrupt that. So that kind of understanding was there, and also they would sit and discuss. As Mr. Mahtab said, there was give and take, which means, okay, both have starting positions, which are very stiff. And then you start and see, reconcile the differences and come to a common meeting point. Okay, on this you take, on this we'll go here.
So at least on the on government priorities, you're on the same page.
Everybody is there.
Consensus.
Why not? Everybody.
Since you spoke of priorities, let me come back to the budget sessions. Of course, the government has its hands full. There are huge expectations of the citizens. Last time that income tax relief was celebrated, as we've already spoken about. So hopefully there will be some more reason to cheer after the union budget on the 1st of February. It's being presented on Sunday, which is again a rare occurrence of sorts. But then trust this government to come up with surprises, because it wanted to stick to that 1st February date. That's why all of us will also be working on Sunday. We will be covering the budget live for you. Coming back to the President's address, and because she also laid out a roadmap. She spoke about the priorities, which of course the government will lay out on the 1st. But in terms of laying out the roadmap, she spoke about the 25-year journey. 1 quarter is what we've covered. But in terms of laying out the roadmap to continue the momentum of the growth that we have seen, you're a member of the ruling party. You carry with you a lot of memory and experience in terms of India's growth journey. What do you think are some of the most immediate areas to look at, especially in context of all of us working together? So when you say the government, the parliament and the people must work together, does the government have specific outlined areas wherein you want all of us to work together, because 2047 is now is inching closer?
Mr. Prasad, this is not the first time that on a Sunday budget is being.
No, I think it's the first time. So this we had on 2 Saturdays.
Yes, Saturdays we've had, but this is the first time.
But I don't think Sunday.
In
99 was a Saturday. When Mr. Yashwant Sinha
presented the first budget. Yeah. That was a Saturday. Yes, but here I would say you must have marked for the first time Honorable President, unlike to herself, has used a word, perhaps that is the word which the government has used, a reform express.
Yes.
What does that signify? It is no longer a slow moving pace. The reform is no longer in a slow moving pace. It is now in an express mode. I'm not saying super fast mode, but it's an express mode. And in express mode, practically we are going into the second phase of reforms, which has already been initiated. I mentioned about 2 such initiatives. There are other which are in the pipeline. And there she also mentioned the stress that is being given on development infrastructure. She mentioned about number of Vande Bharat trains. Yes. Number of sleeper coach Vande Bharat also going to the northeast, connecting a train line from Delhi to Aizawl. What does this signify? The Arch Bridge, the top highest rail bridge in Jammu and Kashmir, another bridge in Tamil Nadu. What does this signify? Our engineering skill is par excellence. Yes. Our infrastructure is in a very rapid pace, is being developed. The roadways are also being rapidly developed. And along with that, we are not confined to only this type of infrastructure. We are also going into semiconductor. We are producing chips. And there she also mentioned the number of mobile phones that we have exported, how it has jumped from 1 crore to. So these are certain, I believe, indications which clearly says our stress is on infrastructure, our stress is on industry, and our stress is on space. Broadly, I would say, starting and in between also she mentioned about inland waterways. What was it in 2014 and what it has happened now. So keeping all this, that is what Vikasit Bharat is. And also by raising the income of the farmers, by mechanization of agriculture. So every aspect has been taken care of. Along with that, when the constitution was being made, all social sectors were the responsibility of the states. Central government or the union government was looking after defense, looking after finance, looking after communication. But social sectors like education and rural development, healthcare were all with the state governments. And this, for last so many years, you will find greater stress is being given on education and health sector. And Honorable President has elaborately stated how the health sector has expanded and what the union government or the government of India is doing with the cooperation of the state, of the provincial government, of the state governments. State governments, for different reasons, are unable to cope up with the demand of the society to meet the challenges to develop education and health sector, which union government with utmost, I think with fullest support is providing that to all the states. There actually the whole, and especially I can't mention the details will be there. The number of tribal students are being added. It's in thousands of crores of money that has gone into their stipend and their hostels, Eklavya hostels. Similarly, the scheduled caste and the backward caste, all these deprived section of our society are being fully funded by the union government. This was not happening earlier. Earlier the focus was different. Because we have a vibrant economy, and that is the reason why the union government is in a position to invest for the development of our human resources.
I think that's why the President outlined her speech first by saying that this government has made consistent efforts in line with its vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and that perhaps has reflected in the last 11 years or so. So the various schemes that have been that were implemented earlier in 2014, they have reaped results. They've in fact entered into phase 2, phase 3 in terms of expansion, and now we are in a new phase of development journey, which will provide or accelerate momentum to this to the efforts that have been consistently made over the last few years. With expectations that the budget will give us a lot of reason to cheer. Thank you so much, Mr. Prasad and Mr. Mahtab, for joining us on the program. We'll be covering the budget live for you on the 1st of February, which is a Sunday, and we'll tell you about some of the significant measures, the new policy initiatives that the government is expected to announce on the 1st, and lay out a roadmap for the next fiscal, but also for the next phase of our journey. But with that, we'll have to call it a wrap on this edition of Perspective. Thank you once again to the guests, and thank you very much to you viewers for your time as well.
To watch more programs of Sansad TV, subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to like and share them.